Hello, I'm Ivan Chung, Chairman and CEO of ASI Inc., and we are honored to join you virtually at the 2022 National Alzheimer's Summit to discuss, listen, and explore solutions that help address the most pressing challenges facing the Alzheimer's disease community. ASI has been at the forefront of Alzheimer's disease research for 4 decades. This includes not only working to deliver breakthrough therapies, but also working to identify the root cause of Alzheimer's disease, simplify the patient journey through early detection, design more inclusive clinical trials, and help find multidisciplinary solutions to improve the lives of people living with Alzheimer's disease and their families. We are so very proud to be a sponsor of the 2022 National Alzheimer's Summit and look forward to a great meeting. Thank you.
Our next panel, Prioritizing Early Detection, will look into how all of us can work to increase brain health awareness, risk reduction, and early detection for everyone. Our panel of experts will discuss the importance of early detection in identifying cognitive decline, because early detection improves the chances of slowing decline, treatment efficacy, clinical trial participation, and more quality time with loved ones. Here's the moderator of this town hall, Brooks Kenny of Us Against Alzheimer's.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our second panel, Prioritizing Early Detection. I'm thrilled to be with all of you this afternoon and can't wait to introduce you to our exciting panel. I want to kick things off with a little story. A story about Jake, a 75-year-old man who regularly goes to his doctor. He eats healthy, he keeps himself active. On a visit to his primary care doctor, he was reminded of an upcoming colonoscopy. That colonoscopy revealed some polyps that upon biopsy resulted in a colon cancer diagnosis. When Jake told his family, he did so with a lot of hope in his voice. Jake's cancer was stage 1 and treatable. Yes, there would be surgery and radiation and years of regular cancer checks, but by and large, this was good news, an early diagnosis that afforded Jake access to treatment. Let's face it, unfortunately, that's not the way it goes with Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is underdetected and underdiagnosed. In fact, more than 60% of Alzheimer's cases in patients over 65 go unrecognized. We know that despite the disparate impact that Alzheimer's disease has on Blacks and Latinos, they are less likely to receive a timely diagnosis and more likely to experience discrimination in their brain health journey. So that's what we're here to talk about today, the importance of early detection and diagnosis of this disease and the opportunities to make early detection accessible for all. We know a lot of the challenges. They're pretty well understood. Current policies don't favor early detection of Alzheimer's disease. Gaps in healthcare provider knowledge, awareness, and capacity still exist. And we know that individuals and families face fear, stigma, and the lack of a common language to even raise the topic about Alzheimer's disease, especially around detection and diagnosis. So today, our panelists will shed more light on these challenges, but perhaps more importantly, they're going to talk about what gives them hope. What are the real opportunities? What are they seeing in the community on how we can really make a difference? So let me introduce you to our amazing panelists this afternoon. First, we have Dr. Baldivieso, who is a board-certified geriatrician and family physician at Advent Health. After receiving her medical degree from the University of Guadalajara, she completed an internship at Santa Maria Chapelita Hospital in Guadalajara, Mexico. Dr. B, as she is affectionately called by many, and I'm thrilled to count myself among them, also completed a family medicine residency at Maya West Medical Center and a geriatric medicine fellowship at Jackson Memorial Hospital. She is a skilled and experienced researcher and practitioner. She's fluent in English and Spanish and works with a large number of communities on senior memory care and well-being. Welcome, Dr. B. Next, we have Dr. Feyron Epps. She is a nurse with over 20 years of experience and is currently serving as an assistant professor and the director of community and research engagement in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Emory University's School of Nursing. She's a fellow with the American Academy of Nursing, the Southern Gerontological Society, and the Gerontological Society of America. Dr. Epps leads initiatives that focus on transitioning individuals from historically underserved groups into the nursing profession. She also serves as the principal investigator for the Faith Village Research Lab and is the founder of the Alter program, which is a nurse-led dementia-friendly congregation program. Welcome, Dr. Epps. And finally, Greg Magnuson, who is a program manager at Virtusa, an IT operations company. Greg brings an extraordinary background in finance, economics, and data analytics to his work. Over the past 15 years, he's worked with organizations ranging from nonprofits to companies large and small, providing valuable insights into their data to help them better understand how we can scale technology to reach more people. He has a strong analytical background, and he helps organizations build their programs using technology and machine learning. He currently helps Us Against Alzheimer's as we've been delivering our Brain Guide platform. He manages the technical development team, our platform analytics, and our product roadmap. Welcome, Greg. So let's get to it and start with our discussion. And just as a reminder to those of you that are tuning in via the Us Against Alzheimer's website, there is an opportunity right below my video for you to ask some questions. You do need to answer some questions first. We'd love you to put your first name and your email address. And once you've done that, there'll be a place for you to add a contribution. If you simply click there and start typing and then hit enter, those questions will come directly to me so that I'm able to serve them up to our panelists so that we can have an engaging dialogue. So we'll do about 20 to 25 minutes of Q&A among the panelists. And then we really do invite you to post your questions in that section on the website. So thanks again for joining. So Dr. B, I'm going to begin with you. You have a really interesting story in that you began your healthcare career as a primary care physician, and now you're a gerontologist in a memory care clinic. So you're kind of the perfect example of dealing with both, or having exposure to both audiences. And I would love it if you could expand on what I shared in terms of what are those challenges that primary care providers are experiencing when they're addressing memory concerns with their patients. And if you could also share a bit about your work with the Davos Alzheimer's Collaborative and how you're addressing early detection in your community.
Thank you, Brooks. Thank you for that introduction. And first of all, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be part of this panel discussion. And great question. As you mentioned, Brooks, there are many challenges that primary care physicians have to assess cognitive decline. But today I wanted to focus on three that I think are most important. One, I think, of the challenges that primary care physicians have is time, right? We know that cognitive assessments are time consuming. And I understand that primary care physicians lack time efficient screening tests to early detect cognitive decline at an early stage, such as mild cognitive impairment, and before someone is already starting having to have symptoms of an early stage dementia. So that I think is one, and a big one. Another thing that I think it's a challenge for them is that they lack a specific guidelines on how to assess and what to do next once they have noticed that there is a change, as well as they lack non-invasive specific tests that will help them confidently diagnose someone with Alzheimer's disease. As we know, this is mostly clinical diagnosis, correct? And someone may need more experience to be able to diagnose it. And another of the big challenges that primary care physicians face when addressing cognition is that they lack tools. to educate and support patients and their caregivers go through the changes and their needs that they have as this disease progress. So those I would say, I think, are the most important and things that primary care physicians have to, have in their everyday living when they have to assess people with cognitive decline. And now that you mentioned the Davos Alzheimer's Collaborative, this has been of a great experience for us because it has taught us how we can help them and how we can change things. And through visiting primary care physicians, trying to engage patients to participate in this study that has an aim of early detection of cognitive decline, we have been presented with many challenges, and we have seen that some of the things that have worked best are that when we visit primary care physicians or when we educate the community, it is important to educate them about why it's important to early detect cognitive decline. What are the things that we can change? How we can reduce your risk of progression and how you can slow down the progression of cognitive decline. So when someone really understands what are the things that you can change that can slow your progression, what are the things that you can implement in your lifestyle that can make a change, that can help you keep your brain healthy, that helps them understand that it's important to address cognition, right? And to assess cognition. Another thing that we have found has helped us is educating primary care physicians about tools that they can use in the community and resources that they can use in the community to help their patients and their caregivers. And another thing that we have seen that has been of a great help is to acknowledge primary care physicians that when it's hard for them to assess cognitive decline and to diagnose, to refer patients to a geriatrician, to a memory disorder clinic, or to a neurologist for further assessment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's fantastic. So it sounds like it's a combination of kind of intangible and tangible information you're trying to bring to primary care. So giving them access to tools that are simple and that are perhaps take up less times, acknowledging that they are challenged by time and perhaps a lack of awareness of what to do next. So giving them, the pass almost to say, refer, and here's the types of folks that you would want to be referring to. When you think about how receptive are the primary care providers that you're reaching when you talk about risk reduction and risk reduction as a way into the conversation with families and their patients around an earlier diagnosis, are you finding they're receptive to that narrative?
To be honest with you, I have seen that when we do first break up the research, they're not very much engaged in participating in anything that would early detect the cognitive decline or Alzheimer's disease. But when we take the time, you see, to educate them, why it is important, and what, even though we don't have a treatment, a cure for dementia, there are so many other things that we can do, right? Assessing the risk factors, talking about medications that impact cognition, talking about lifestyle changes, talking about managing medical conditions that can put you at a higher risk to develop dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So educating them, when we spend time to educate them, we have seen that they do engage
right
into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a practical and seems like such a simple thing, right? But really taking that time as advocates, as experts, as stakeholders, and providing that education to really shift the narrative, even among this really important group of primary care nurses and providers and health and wellness practitioners who are all, playing a role in engaging with older adults. So I really appreciate that intention around taking the time to bring them that knowledge and that empowerment and a pathway forward. So if they aren't sure what to do, you're able to help them learn where they can offer, which is obviously so important. And I think that's a fantastic segue to my question for Dr. Epps, recognizing, not to overuse a term, but it really does take a village, right? We're not just talking about neurologists. Neurologists alone are not going to solve our challenges with early detection. We have so many barriers. So we need the primary care providers, that includes doctors and nurses, but we also need trusted leaders in the community. And Dr. Epps, you've been instrumental in supporting us against Alzheimer's and teaching us so much about the value of trusted leaders. And we know that, the importance of nurses, the importance of health and wellness providers, and faith leaders. Can you speak a little bit about these trusted sources in the community and how you work with them and why they're so important?
Well, yeah, thank you again, Brooks, for inviting me to be part of this platform. And I am a nurse. My background is nursing. And of course, I think we all know that healthcare professionals, they are, especially nursing is the most trusted healthcare professional. But it's also important to bridge the gap and to work with community leaders. And that's very important. And that's what I do in my work in Atlanta. I work with the community stakeholders to make sure that they know of these resources that they can give their members and those that they serve. More particularly, I work with Black faith communities and their leaders. And it's so key because when we think about the Black community and a lot of communities, the church or their place of worship is so important. This is many times it's the cornerstone of that community. It can also be the haven for many. And this is where they come to get the information. So not to just go there and worship, but also to get information and resources. And that's very important. And that's the reason why I have selected to, because of how important it is in my family, that I have selected to really take this on and be able to partner with faith communities and educate faith leaders on what dementia is. And, Brooks, when I'm out there doing the education, just like Dr. V said, education is real key. And so then they will be interested in, quote unquote, checking their memory. That's what we say in the community, check your memory, know your numbers. Because without the education, when I'm going there and saying, oh, you need to get checked for dementia, it's really a no. I don't want to know. But the more education they receive and giving them this opportunity, the different ways that they can go in and check their memory, it has been very, very powerful. And it gives them another way to look at it, because now they're seeing, oh, if the church or my faith community has resources that will help me, well, then I can go get checked and know my memory number, and realize, okay, now I can call my church, I can call my ministry leader, and they would know how to help me if in case I am showing signs and early signs of dementia and receiving diagnosis. So it's very important. And as I'm out there, I'm realizing, a lot of communities are, when I'm talking to the parishioners, they're like, oh my goodness, it's such sorrow and despair to hear about dementia and everything that goes with it. And as they get the diagnosis, they want to know, well, what can we do to reduce the risk in our community? Reduce the risk with our youth.
Right.
Currently now. And that's how it's so important where, I came back because I work very closely with Us Against Alzheimer's. And, I was I think I was instrumental in the brain guide and making sure we put things in place so that my communities that I'm serving can start using this, because sometimes they don't have access to a healthcare provider, but they have access to the brain guide. And that's what we've been pushing. And as a result of that, Brooks, Now they want to know, we want to know more about brain health.
Mhm.
To me, it's great. And that's how I was able to come back to you all and your team and be able to brainstorm. And now we're working to put brain health in a box for the faith communities that I work with. And they are excited. They're calling every day, where is it? And they want to implement these things, because now with the education, like Dr. V has said, we're going in there and now we're promoting early detection. And then they see that these resources are in their community within a trusted resource or a trusted institution. It's been really, really key.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, like I said, we've learned so much from you and the amazing work that you're doing in the community. I wanted to highlight a key component of engaging faith leaders, because I think there's so much fear in getting that diagnosis, which we know contributes to the lack of screening and, you know, all the various barriers. But the idea that the faith leaders, it's similar to perhaps heart disease, diabetes, cancer, the faith leaders might be there in the front end, right? Where they're talking to their community about ways to reduce risk, ways to promote brain health. But they're also there should a family undergo a diagnosis. They're also there when a family is trying to pull together what their plan might be, or how am I going to manage now that my aunt has a dementia diagnosis. And so I think that's an important part of the message, is that part of why the faith leaders are so instrumental is because they're there throughout the journey, right? Not just in the initial education, but if there were to be a diagnosis or any crisis in the family, that's where the family is going to get their support. And I know you've shared that that's been a big part of the receptivity from the work that you're doing.
Yes, correct. And, you know, we promote that the faith leader is part of the care partner team.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really stress that because we don't want them to shy away when families come to them with a diagnosis of dementia, because you're right, they're there for every other crisis. And we want to make sure that they're there and they're equipped for also when families do come to them with the diagnosis and they're faced with dementia, and they're able to support. So we really do promote that they're part of the care partner team. And also, Brooks, I wanted to piggyback, you know, when you talked about the fear, because that does exist in many communities, the fear of receiving a diagnosis.
Sure.
When I go out in the community, I have friends that I bring with me, and they're living fully with dementia. And they accompany me to the education sessions that I do, the ones that I do face-to-face and the ones that I do virtually, so that the Black community can see others that look like them and see them and how it is to live fully with dementia. And, you know, one person, Terry Montgomery, she's on our advisory board, and she talks about the power of prayer and having faith. And that really hits home for the communities that I'm working. And one education session, a person came up to me and we did that. And he said, I'm here and I want to help you. I want to do whatever it is to spread the word. And he just came out the blue, and his wife afterwards came to me and she apologized. She said he's diagnosed with dementia. And I said, oh, no worries. But that's letting me know that having a testimony for someone living with dementia, he was now able to speak up and come out where many people are in the congregation and they're not speaking about it. And we no longer can be silent. We need to make sure we have the resources. And I'm happy that I'm in the community and they're very receptive.
That's fantastic. And thank you for sharing that story. And as you know, here at Us Against Alzheimer's, you know, the voices of people living with the disease and their care partners are critical to solving the challenges in this movement. And, you know, we believe so strongly that storytelling is a great way to kind of pierce through that stigma and allow people to see themselves in others. So it's amazing that you're in the community and sharing those stories back with us. And so thank you. I'm turn it over to Greg for a question, which I know is a bit of a transition, but, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge that we have a lot of people to reach, right? There's 6.5 million people living with the disease today that we know about. There are millions more worrying about their memory, their continues to be a need for education, brain health education, opportunities for people to check in on their own health and wellness. And so we've found that technology done right is going to be a way that we're going to be able to scale and reach more people. So, Greg, from your technology perspective, I would love for you to share what you see emerging when it comes to the intersection of technology and early detection, and some of the things you're seeing out there in the tech world, so to speak.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Brooks. I'm grateful to be a part of the panel. It's really exciting to see how technology is increasing access to health information and serve as a platform for that early detection. From my perspective, we're really just at the starting line at what is possible using technology to identify and get individuals the help they need earlier. Over the past year or so, there have been some real notable efforts using technology and devices that many of us have to provide that earlier detection of diseases such as Alzheimer's. For example, the National Institute on Aging recently funded a study to explore the use of virtual personal assistants, such as Alexa or Google Home, to monitor speech patterns over a longer period of time to gauge changes in those patterns and memory function over time. This research could lead to earlier screening and diagnosis of dementia. Additionally, there's work being done to use data, with the user's permission from their smartphones and smartwatches to track those small changes in a person's life, such as movement or sleep or speech, as potential indicators for an early disease. What's more, researchers are also actively working on smartphone applications that use an individual's phone camera to record eye movements to screen for Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. While a lot of these technologies are early in their development, they're really just at the starting line. Imagine the potential of combining the data that they collect with artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to identify and pick up on the key warning signs, as small as they may be, that we might normally overlook across millions of people. Not only will this help advance early screening and detection, but it will also fundamentally increase our ability to understand the mechanisms in which these diseases function and progress. Of course, there are certainly ethical and privacy concerns that need to be addressed and really carefully thought through. In addition, it's equally important that those who do not have access to these technologies, such as the smartphones and the watches, do not get left behind. So while these are very exciting emerging technologies with a lot of potential in the future, one of the projects that is making an impact today is Brain Guide, developed by Us Against Alzheimer's. And I've been excited to be a part of this team. Working together, we've developed this free online questionnaire adapted from commonly applied and validated tools in the healthcare community. The goal is to empower people to take the next step in managing their own or a loved one's brain health. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people take this questionnaire and receive relevant resources based on their results. These resources include ways to check memory concerns, how to support a family member, or ways to take action after a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's disease. It's tools like these that will help increase awareness and scale that outreach. A lot of thought has gone into making Brain Guide accessible to as many people as possible, offering a phone and web version, making it accessible in English and Spanish, and offering accommodations to those who may need other accessibility measures. Special consideration has also been given to make sure that we focus on outreach in the Black and Latino communities. So I guess in conclusion, technology really enables scale, and finding ways to use technology will help reach more people and help them begin conversations with their doctors earlier, ultimately leading to earlier diagnosis and ultimately interventions.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate the punctuation on accessibility, having technologies that are free, that are accessible, that are available in English and Spanish, that are culturally relevant, super important when we think about technology, and engaging the community, right? Engaging the community as we build technology, not just building technology for technology's sake. So really appreciate your perspective and want to turn it back over to Dr. B for a little bit more insight related to the Latino community. I know you provide education and support to the Latino community over the years in your work, and we'd love for you to share what you've learned, in terms of reaching families and communities. What are some of the best practices addressing memory and brain health, and why is early detection so incredibly important in the Latino community? Any insights there that you can share with the group?
Yes, thank you, Brooks.
Sure.
Well, I have to share with you that I do have a Hispanic background. So that helps me understand and break the cultural barriers that Latino and the Hispanic community may have addressing cognitive decline. It does help me to understand them, right? Because I have that Hispanic background. But I'm going to share with you today some of the things that specifically have helped me. So acknowledging that cultural barrier with them, understanding that in the Latino Hispanic community, cognitive decline, the word dementia may be a stigma, and they may fear losing their independence. So that is something that could let them to avoid the conversation with you. So acknowledging this with them has helped me to open up the conversation, to start the conversation about cognition. Also, some of the things that have helped me is obviously speaking the language, because they can refer to me in their own words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that educating Latinos, since a lot of the Latino community may think that cognitive changes are normal to age. And they're very prompt to think that, oh, this is aging, right? I'm 80 years old, and this is normal aging process. So, and their family may think the same way. So educating them that what is the difference between what is normal decline in memory related to age versus what is abnormal, what is mild cognitive impairment, and what is dementia, and what are the different stages, what are the specific types of dementia, and then what are the different stages as to mild, moderate, severe. So explaining to them what is normal and what is abnormal have also helped me start the conversation. So another of the things that have helped me introduce this topic to them is educating them that how can we make a difference and what can we change if we early detect this, right? So that they won't fear having the conversation, so that they won't fear losing their house, losing their independence, having to move to another facility when they don't want to leave their house. So addressing how can we decrease the risk of progression, how can we slow this progression, what are the things that we can do in advance before we get to a severe stage, has helped me to open up the conversation with them. So yes, that's some of the things that I wanted to share with you. Now, to answer your second question about why is it important to early detect cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease in the Latino community? Well, we know in science that the Latino community have a higher risk of developing dementia, specifically Alzheimer's disease. We know that Latinos have a 1.5 higher risk than white Americans to develop dementia, right? We know that the Hispanic community have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes, and that these conditions predispose them through insulin metabolism and a lot of scientific things that we still don't know, but we know that these conditions predispose them to a higher risk of developing dementia. So knowing that they have this higher risk, it is important for us to address this in the Latino community. It is important to us to reach out to them, right? And to address this because they do have a higher risk, and explaining them that if we not only treat these conditions, it would not only help manage their blood pressure, their cholesterol, their diabetes, it would not only help them manage this condition, but it would also help keep their brain healthy. It would also help decrease the risk of having dementia.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and really appreciate your insights related to really meeting folks where they are and acknowledging them where they are, and then providing that education and helping them see it's not a normal part of aging. Really appreciate that, and want to kind of take a similar question to you, Dr. Epps. You know, what advice do you give when you're meeting with members of the community who say to you, you know, I want to talk about this with, you know, my provider, or I'm going to the community health center and I'm going to talk about my brain health. How do you, Dr. Epps, advise your community members on how to do that? How can we make the community feel more empowered to talk about their brains? You know, we tend to feel more empowered to talk about other parts of our health, but we aren't often feeling that confidence. So any experiences that you can share in your work with the faith community?
Yeah, I think it's the main thing is making sure that they have the resources. So even when they're going to their provider, bringing resources with them, because Dr. B just mentioned some providers, they don't have a toolkit. It'd be so great if they also have a toolkit that they can have, but they don't have a toolkit. So I think it's very important, and I educate those in the Black community, bring these resources, you know, share what you've learned. Share what you've learned from the seminar that you've attended and any of the other research that you've done. It is really key that we do that. And if you're going to the community centers, bring this information with you. And that has been really helpful. You know, some families say, well, then how am I gonna do it at home? I just had this recent question. How can we have this discussion at home? And it's not a one size fits all. You know your family. And sometimes it's just leaving a card out on the dinner table. Somebody's going to pick it up. Trust me. Leave my brain guide card right there. Just leave it right there. And I tell them that. And I say, you'll be surprised because everybody's nosy. They're going to look it up. They want to know what you got going on. And that has helped. And I said, then that leads to a conversation. If you have some of the other material that I may share, I said, just leave it out. And if you're attending an education session that's online, I'd say play it loud because they're not going to come and listen. I said, that is okay. I say, play it loud. Trust me, they are listening. You know, and I've had that. I've went into homes where families, they call me to come into the homes. And they say, my husband, he was never going to come in here and tell you that he has these signs. I said, that's fine. But let's talk about it. And I talk loud. And we go through the signs and symptoms. And of course, everybody wants to know, well, why is she talking so loud? And this individual actually came in to the dinner table and he sat down with me and he said, at the end, he was like, I have some of those signs and symptoms. So he was listening and he came in. And Brooks, one more thing before I end, I just want to, you said meet them where they are. I want to make sure we stress not just meeting them where they are, going to them is really important. And that's what meeting them where they are, not just where their literacy level is, but also getting out and going to them, going to those rural communities, going to the communities that many people don't want to go to. We need to go there. And it's very, very important that we do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I do want to thank you all for joining us. And I look forward to a time we can gather again. And I just want to remind everyone that early detection is a key pillar of Us Against Alzheimer's. And we invite you to continue the conversation with us. Thank you very much.